It's been nearly 5 years since one of the worst financial meltdowns this country has ever faced. So where are we now and what have we learned exactly? John Sweeney is with Fidelity Investments to share the results of their 5 years later study on investor attitudes. Good morning.
Good morning, Molly.
Nice to have you on the show. I'm sure there's no easy answer to this, but where are we now? Have we recovered? Have most Americans and investors recovered from the meltdown?
Well, in terms of a portfolio value standpoint, what we see is that obviously the stock market has come back up to its near highs, so that's a good sign. Investor portfolios have recovered as well. But more importantly, when we surveyed investors, we found that 58% of them actually felt more confident today than they did at the beginning of the financial crisis. The beginning of the financial crisis, of course, they were scared and concerned and didn't know how to react. Today, they feel more prepared, and that's a very good trend coming out of a very difficult time.
What about behavior? What kind of behavior changes have you seen in the past 5 years as it relates to investors?
Well, we can't control the stock market, we can't control where interest rates are, but we can control our own personal economy. And we find that there are two main levers that investors have really taken control of. One is their savings rate. We found that almost half the people we surveyed increased their savings rate, and that's a very good sign. The other half of the balance sheet is they've reduced their debt. 42% of the people we surveyed actually reduced their debt over the last 5 years. So both of those trends are very positive.
I think those trends are positive, too. Do you see those changes as being permanent, or do you see them as being temporary?
The good news is when you reduce household debt, you actually take it out of your expenditure structure. So whether it's paying down a mortgage or reducing high-interest credit card debt, that's generally a good long-term behavior. The hope is obviously that when the economy starts to recover and we feel more confident, we don't then expand out to that higher debt level that we had seen previously. The second trend around savings, when savings come from your paycheck directly into a 401k or an IRA, again, that's a very good trend and tends to be very long-lasting. If you pay yourself first, you have less to spend, and so those kinds of contributions tend to be very long-lasting.
You mentioned paying down credit card debt. That's obviously a great step toward putting kind of our best foot forward as it relates to our finances. What other things do you recommend? What other steps should we be taking?
We find that investors who have a plan feel much more confident and are much more able to withstand downturns. So those folks who understood that they were trying to retire and continuously contributed throughout the downturn, they actually ended up in a much better place than those people who were scared and didn't know how to react. They're worried about the volatility in the market. They're worried about whether it's the right time to get in, while those investors who had a plan continuously contributed all throughout the downturn, and they were actually buying stocks when they were low and depressed. Then when the equity markets started to come back, they benefited and their portfolios grew as a result of the continuous allocation throughout that downturn.
You mentioned retirement. I wonder if any part of your study addressed the age at which people are retiring. Has that changed a lot in the last 5 years?
What we've seen is that people have certainly had to take an adjusted plan. If you had a plan to retire at a certain age 10 years ago, you may want to rethink that. And so investors are coming in saying, well, here was my plan 10 years ago. It's obviously been affected by the market downturn over the last 5 years. So what does that mean for me now? Whether they're saving more, readjusting the time frame in which they had planned to retire, or reducing their household debt, all three of those are levers that you can pull and you can control.
Where should people go for more information?
We have a website at Fidelity.com and a section there called Viewpoints. We have an article that has 5 key tips that investors can take today. And investors can subscribe to it for free and receive regular updates on how to improve their own personal economy.
Our 401k here at our company is through Fidelity. So I appreciate you talking to us. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me, Molly.
Absolutely. Thanks again, John. And for more information, again, that website, Fidelity.com. Stay tuned. The Morning Blend will be right back.